Welcome to the Stoic tide. They thought betraying you would break you, that walking away would make you crumble. They smiled when they turned their back, thinking they had the final move. But they didn't realize the moment they lost your access, they also lost their protection. Their mask slipped, their illusion shattered, and life in its silent cruelty started keeping score. You didn't scream. You didn't chase. You just disappeared and rebuilt the very thing they thought they destroyed. Now you've become the person they swore you couldn't be. Unsharkable, untouchable, and far beyond their reach. So today, let's walk through what really happens when someone betrays a good person and life teaches them a lesson far worse than revenge through the lens of Stoic wisdom, emotional intelligence, and quiet power. This is not just about betrayal. This is about transformation. Welcome to Think Stoic 101. Let's begin. People who betray you rarely look back. They walk away assuming they've won, that you're left behind, shattered and ashamed. But what they don't see is the storm they've started in silence. Enough kind of storm they expect. Not rage, not chaos, but the quiet kind. The kind that builds inside you slowly, steadily, until it turns into power. You see, betrayal doesn't just hurt. It rewires something in you. The first cut always comes from those you let closest. The deepest wounds never come from strangers. They come from those who once held your trust like a sacred thing and dropped it like it meant nothing. And that's what makes betrayal so soul-crushing. It's not just what they did, it's what they made you question about love, loyalty, your worth, even your own judgment. You sit in the quiet, thinking, how did I not see it coming? Was I that blind? Did I deserve this? But the truth is, you weren't naive. You were genuine. You didn't fail. They did. They failed to honor the space you gave them. They failed to rise to the level of your loyalty. The Stoic lesson, pen is the first teacher. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In other words, the betrayal itself doesn't define you, how you process it does. You could let it break you, or you could let it build you deeper, wiser, quieter, and sharper. That's what the Stoics did. They didn't seek revenge. They didn't need closure. They used the pain to carve a new version of themselves, one that couldn't be touched the same way again. A familiar story, maybe yours, too. Imagine this. You gave everything to someone, your time, your honesty, your energy, and one day they vanish, or worse, turn on you. They tell others where you're the villain. Suddenly, people you thought were friends disappear. No explanation, nothing to speak your side, just silence. Cold, calculated silence. You stare at your phone, waiting for someone to ask what happened. No one does. And so you sit in the ashes, not just of the relationship, but of the illusion. The illusion that love always protects. The illusion that loyalty is mutual. The illusion that good people don't get hurt. What they didn't expect was this. They thought you'd beg. They thought you'd chase. They thought you'd lose sleep, drown in sadness, spiral into weakness. But what they didn't expect is that you'd rise in silence. They didn't expect you to go ghost, not out of bitterness, but clarity, not out of anger, but self-respect. They didn't expect you to use the pain as fuel, the silence as strength. And they sure as hell didn't expect that you'd come back. Not to them, but to yourself. Your power was never in the reaction. In Stoic philosophy, the highest virtue is not strength, it's self-mastery. And when Simeon betrays you, the greatest power is not retaliation, it's restraint. You didn't lash out. You didn't write angry posts. You didn't try to expose them, you sat with your pain. You let it burn. And then you let it transform you. That's the kind of pain they never see. The one that turns into presence. The one that turns into purpose. And here's the twist. That pain was necessary. Yes, you heard that right. If they hadn't betrayed you, you might still be bending backwards, still explaining yourself, still shrinking to make them feel big, still pouring into someone who was silently draining you. Their betrayal was a blade, but it cut the cord that was choking your growth. So don't regret the pain. Don't wish it away, honor it. Because that pain was the beginning of your rebirth. Let's get one thing clear from the start. Their betrayal wasn't your fault. It wasn't because you were too much. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because they couldn't handle the light you brought into the room. People don't always betray you because you failed them. They betray you because you stopped being easy to control. The psychology behind betrayal. Betrayal doesn't always come from hate. It often comes from fear. Fear of your growth, fear of your standards, fear of your stability. The truth is, some people are addicted to chaos. They thrive in drama, manipulation, and codependency. And when they realize you're starting to think for yourself, speak for yourself, and set boundaries, they panic. You become unfamiliar. You become a mirror that reflects all the parts of themselves they're not ready to confront. And instead of facing fat discomfort, they run. They sabotage. They betray. It was about their insecurity, not your identity. Remember this, someone else's disloyalty is a reflection of their character, not a referendum on your worth. Let's say you were kind, generous, supportive. You showed up, stayed loyal, gave second chances, but they still walked away, or worse, stabbed you in the back. It's easy to internalize that, to think, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I care too much. You cared correctly. They just didn't have the emotional capacity to value it. You were real in a world that rewards fake. You were stable in a world addicted to chaos. You were consistent, and that intimidated someone whose life was built on inconsistency. Real example, the friend who couldn't celebrate you. Let's bring this home with a story. You had a friend you grew up with. You struggled together, supported each other in hard times. But then you started changing, improving, leveling up newer bits, healthier choice, sharper vision. You stopped gossiping. You stopped tolerating the same emotional loops. And suddenly, they distanced themselves. Why? Because your growth made them feel like they were being left behind. Not because you made them feel small, but because they refused to grow with you. One day they ghosted you, or they talked behind your back, or they made it seem like you'd changed for the worse. Envious, but really they betrayed you because you started becoming someone they couldn't control anymore. The Stoic view: don't take it personal, take it seriously. Epictetus once said, when someone acts badly, it's because they have judged it to be right. In other words, people often betray not out of cruelty, but because they've convinced themselves it's justified. Maybe they thought, they're too good for me now. I'll hurt them before they outgrow me. I'm tired of being compared to their progress. So they made a move not out of logic, but out of ego. And you're left with the shock not just of what they did, but of why they did it. It was protection in disguise. You might not see it at first, but in time you'll realize that betrayal was actually a divine filter. It removed someone who couldn't sit at your table without poisoning the food. They were never meant to stay for the next chapter. Their betrayal wasn't an ending. It was an edit. And sometimes life subtracts for your protection, not your punishment. Detach from the why. You may never get a clear answer. You may never hear them say, I was wrong. And that's okay, because Stoicism teaches us, you don't need their apology to heal. You just need your decision to stop bleeding for people who cut you without remorse. So the next time you start questioning your worth because of their betrayal, remember they didn't betray you because you were weak. They betrayed you because you were getting stronger. There's a moment in every healing journey when you realize you don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You didn't even need closure. You just go silent. And that silence, it's not weakness. It's not avoidance, it's power. Because when you stop engaging with the chaos, you stop feeding the very thing that was draining you. Why narcissists and toxic people fear silence? For people who crave control, your silence is the ultimate threat. They thrive on reaction emotional outbursts, defending yourself, trying to be understood. It gives them a sense of impotence. But the moment you go quiet, they lose their grip. They can't manipulate what they can't hear. They can't twist words that were never spoken. They can't control a mind that doesn't play their game anymore. And that terrifies them. You become a mirror they can't handle. When you go silent, you're no longer providing distraction. You're no longer covering up their emptiness with your energy. Suddenly they're alone with themselves. No one to blame, no one to provoke, no one to project onto. It's like putting a narcissist in front of a mirror, but instead of seeing their reflection through your reactions, they're forced to see the truth they've been avoiding all along. And here's the thing, some people would rather destroy a mirror than look into it. A real-life moment you might recognize. You've probably been here. You get a text full of accusations, or a call meant to bait you into defending yourself, or a message from someone who suddenly remembers your worth right after you stop responding. And for a moment, you're tempted. You want to type out the perfect comeback to explain, to correct, to prove your side. But you don't. You put the phone down, you breathe. You let the silence speak for you. That is growth. That is self-mastery. And they feel it deeply. The Stoic approach. Say less, mean more. Epictetus wrote, "It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." In other words, your peace is not disturbed by what someone says, but by your decision to internalize it. When you respond, you give weight to their words. When you stay silent, you strip their power. The Stoics weren't passive. They were intentional. They didn't react to everything. They responded only when it was aligned with virtue, logic, and control of self. Silence isn't just avoidance. It's a boundary. Here's the truth. Some people don't deserve access to your voice anymore. Not because you're punishing them, but because you're protecting yourself. Your silence says, "I no longer seek validation from someone who devalues me. I refuse to fight battles that aren't worth winning. I choose my energy over your chaos." That's not cold. That's clarity. What happens next? They spiral. Here's what usually happens when you go silent with a manipulative person. First, they mock you. "Oh, so you're ignoring me now." Then they poke. "Guess you don't have the courage to face this." Then they guilt trip after everything I did for you. And finally, they panic. They realize they've lost access not just to you, but to the power they had over you. And that's when the game ends, not with revenge, not with drama, but with a decision. You are no longer participating in the pain they created. Silence doesn't mean nothing. It means everything. Let's be clear. Going silent doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you've felt too much and you've decided that peace matters more than proving your point. It means you've stopped seeking justice from people who live in denial. It means you're not here to win arguments anymore. You're here to win your life back. If you're tempted to speak, remember this. Before you reply to that message, before you post that status, before you let your emotions take the wheel, ask yourself, will this response restore my peace or just restart the cycle? If it's not aligned with your healing, your values, your emotional intelligence, let it go. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. They thought they'd get away with it. The lies, the betrayal, the manipulation. They walked away like nothing happened. Like your pain was just collateral damage. Like your silence meant surrender. But what they forgot is that life always keeps recites. And karma, she doesn't come with noise or fireworks. She shows up quietly but surgically. You won't always see it happen, but you'll feel it in the way their mask begins to slip. in the way the people they manipulated start to question their truth, in the way they slowly start living in the mess they created. Stoic insight. Karma is cause and effect, not magic. The Stoics didn't believe in magical justice. They believed in natural consequences. The reality that every action plants a seed and what grows depends on what was planted. Seneca said every guilty person is his own hangman, and meaning no one escapes the weight off their own conscience. You don't need to punish them. Life already will. When Simeon lives dishonestly, eventually their lies become their reality. When someone betrays those who are loyal, they create a world where no one trusts them anymore. And when they play with other people's hearts like toys, they end up emotionally bankrupt, surrounded by mirrors they can't stand to look into. You'll know karma has arrived when they start to implode. It won't be dramatic at first, but the signs are always there. Relationships or them start to fail. Not because of bad luck, but because of bad character. They bounce from job to job, friendship to friendship, always blaming someone else. They become haunted by their own reputation, unable to maintain the mask anymore. They try to come back into your life because everyone else finally saw the truth you saw years ago. You'll see the cracks. You'll feel the collapse. Not because you wished them harm, but because they became the architect of their own downfall. Real story. The narcissist who thought they won. Let me give you a familiar example. Imagine a man who emotionally manipulated his partner for years. Gaslighting, triangulation, subtle cruelty, masked as jokes. She finally left, went silent, built a life of peace. He laughed at first. She'll come back. She always does, but this time she didn't. At first, he replaced her quickly, showing off a new relationship online, pretending he upgraded. But behind closed doors, it crumbled. Because he didn't just lose a woman, he lost a mirror that once made him feel powerful. And with each new attempt to replace her, he saw more clearly. It wasn't her who was broken. It was him. Years later, he tried to reconnect a message, an apology, a guilt trip. But by then, her silence wasn't affis. It was a permanent boundary. That's the day karma showed up. And didn't look like revenge. It looked like her joy, her growth, her peace. Karma doesn't need you to watch. It needs you to let go. You don't need to sit and wait for them to fall. That's not Stoicism. That's ego. True emotional intelligence means you don't chase karma. You trust it. You rise above the obsession with outcomes and focus on what you can control. Your discipline, your boundaries, your self-worth. The Stoic shift from victim to victor. When they betrayed you, they assumed they broke you. But what they didn't realize is that Stoic wisdom flips the script. You didn't lose. You gained mental clarity, emotional resilience, spiritual strength, the freedom to rebuild without their chaos. Their karma is watching you thrive in a life where their manipulation has no oxygen. Your peace is the loudest justice. Here's what the Stoics would say. Your peace is your proof. Your silence is your statement. Your elevation is your answer. You don't have to prove they were wrong. You just have to prove that you were always strong. And the day you stop hoping they suffer is the day you truly win. Because nothing disturbs a manipulator more than the realization that they no longer have the power to disturb you. You don't owe them a reaction, not a sarcastic reply, not a petty post, not a whispered warning to mutual friends. You owe them nothing. And in that nothing is the most devastating message of all. They no longer matter. Stoic philosophy. Indifference is power, not passivity. To the untrained mind, indifference looks like weakness. But to the Stoic, it's supreme strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Indifference isn't apathy. It's clarity. It means you no longer allow yourself to be emotionally hijacked by people who thrive on chaos. You see their games. You recognize their manipulation, but you choose not to play. That's not weakness. That's evolution. What getting even actualicus you, let's be honest, getting even feels tempting. You imagine the momenthi, feel your pain. You think of the words you'd say, the revenge you could serve cold. But what does it actually get you? A momentary high, a temporary sense of justice, a quick hit to your ego. And then what? You're back in the mood with them, replaying conversations, overthinking, explaining yourself to people who never deserved your truth in the first place. The price of revenge is our peace. And that's always too expensive. Real world story. The woman woe said nothing. Let me share a story you might recognize. A woman found out her partner was cheating, not just with one person, but with several. Her world collapsed overnight, but instead of exploding, she packed her things in insolence. She left without a fight. She said nothing publicly. No revenge, no gossip, no dramatic exit. 6 months later, she had a new job, a healthier body, a peaceful home, and had started therapy. Meanwhile, her ex alone, struggling, trying to explain to people why he lost a good one. Her silence did more damage than 1,000 angry texts ever could. That's the power of indifference. Why it hurts them more than anger ever could. You know what drives toxic people crazy? When they realize you don't care who they're with now. You don't check their stories anymore. You don't wonder what if. You didn't hate them. You just feel nothing. To someone who once fed off your emotions, your indifference is not just rejection. It's erasure. They no longer live rent-free in your mind. And that loss of emotional power, it's the one thing they can't recover from. From survival to self-mastery, you used to react because you were hurt. Because you didn't understand why, because you wanted answers. But now you don't need an apology. You don't need their side of the story. You don't need them to admit anything. You've moved from survival mode to self-mastery. And that means you don't waste time proving they were wrong. You invest time becoming more of who you were always meant to be. You let your growth be the loudest answer they'll never forget. If you're tempted to get even, remember this. Ask yourself, will this action heal me or just feed my ego? If it's for closure, peace, or reclaiming your power silently, go for it. If it's just to trigger them, post for them, or win the breakup, pause. Sometimes the best revenge is not just success. It's not caring if they see it. The ultimate Stoic principle, control the inner, release the outer. The Stoics taught us to divide life into 2 categories. What you can control, your choices, your thoughts, your mindset, what you cannot control, how they see you, what they say, what they do. Now getting even belongs to the second group. It gives them emotional access, and it pulls you out of alignment. But indifference, that's entirely yours. No one can take it. And once you own it, you become unshakable. Conclusion, your peace is non negotiable. Let them talk. Let them post. Let them act like they won. Because when the dust settles and your name is no longer in their mouth, you'll still be building, healing, becoming. And they'll still be trying to get a reaction from someone who's already moved far beyond the battlefield. That's Stoic freedom. That's emotional intelligence. That's your new power. They always come back. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but one day when the silence grows too loud. When their new supply runs dry. When the mask slips and the weight of their own emptiness becomes unbearable. They'll reach for the last place they felt in control. They'll send a message out of nowhere. They'll accidentally, like an old photo, they'll find a way to remind you they still exist. But rest shift. You've changed. And when you see their name pop up, you don't feel hate. You don't feel fear. You don't even feel anger. You feel nothing. Why narcissists always circle back? Let's break it down with brutal clarity. Narcissists don't miss you. They miss the access to you, the emotional reaction, the validation, the control. You were a mirror to their illusion, and our silence shattered that reflection. So when they come back, it's not because they've grown. It's because their new manipulation supply failed. And they remember how easy it used to be. They don't return for love. They return for leverage. The power of non-reactivity. A person in their old trauma cycle would feel triggered. What do they want now? Should I respond? Maybe they've changed, but someone who's done the inner work, who has rebuilt their self-worth and boundaries, feels none of that. They didn't need closure. They are the closure. Their silence becomes a full sentence, and their peace becomes the gatekeeper. Stoic principle. The past cannot disturb you without your permission. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." You are no longer the version of yourself they once manipulated. You've upgraded. You've healed. And now you're untouchable to the games that once destroyed you. So when they try to circle back, it's not your job to explain, defend, or revisit battlefield. It's your job to stand firm in your inner peace and say, "This door is no longer yours to knock on." Real story. The silent exit that turned it into strength. Let me share a relatable moment. Sarah was in a toxic relationship for 4 years. Gaslighting, blame shifting, constant guilt trips. She finally walked away after discovering infidelity. 6 months of no contact, new habits, new life, new mindset. Then the text came, "Hey, just thinking of you. Hope you're okay." The old version of Sarah would have cried, felt confused, maybe even responded. But now she looked at the message, smiled slightly, and deleted it without a second thought. Not out of bitterness, but because she finally realized there's nothing left to return to. That's the quiet strength Stoicism gives you. The power to close a door without slamming it. Why they panic when you don't respond? Here's the secret narcissists will never say aloud. They expect you to break no contact. They expect the pain to pull you back in. They expect guilt to make you explain. They expect the old emotional leash tossed to work. But when you don't flinch, when your silence stays strong, they panic. Not because they lost you, but because they lost their power over you. They realize you've become something they cannot manipulate. A peaceful, grounded person with emotional intelligence and psychological boundaries. And that is terrifying to them. You are no longer who they betrayed. That version of you, the one who tolerated, explained, forgave too fast, is gone. Now you value your inner peace more than external validation. Prior spiritual discipline over emotional chaos. Understand that not every sorry deserves a response. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because you've reached the point where silence isn't a tactic. It's a lifestyle. You don't need to punish them. You don't even need to remember them. They'll have to live with the memory of losing you while you live with peace of never needing them again. Letting go is not weakness. It's mastery. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to warn the next person. You simply move forward, calm, focused, and unshaken. That's how you win. Not by going back and proving anything, but by building a life that's too high for them to reach. That's emotional intelligence. That's psychological resilience. That's Stoic self-mastery. You didn't destroy them. You didn't expose them. You didn't even try to get back at them. And yet, they are falling apart. It starts quietly. Small failures, fractured relations, a reputation that starts to rot from the inside out. They told everyone you were the problem. But now they can't hold anything stable because the storm was never you. The storm was what they were hiding. And now life is peeling back every layer. What goes around starts within. Let's make one thing clear. You don't need to believe in mystical karma for reality to work. There's something called psychological karma. a cause and effect that plays out when someone betrays what is good, loyal, and true. When someone lies, manipulates, uses others for their own gain, they create disconnection within themselves. At first, it's invisible, but over time, it shows up in the loss of trust from people around them. The inability to sustain real relationships, the internal voice that never lets them rest, the reputation that quietly follows them into every room. They tried to bury their wrongdoings under charm, silence, or distraction. But life has a funny way of collecting unpaid debts, not always with fire, but with a slow, suffocating unraveling. The Stoic perspective. You reap what you tolerate. Stoics don't believe in magic. They believe in natural law, cause, and effect rooted in human behavior. Seneca once said, "Every guilty person is his own hangman," meaning people who do harm are not escaping. They are simply delaying the collapse. They carry it like a weight they think they've hidden. But guilt, shame, fear, these are corrosive. They erode peace from the inside out. So while you're out there healing, building, and transforming, they're trapped in the maze they created. Real story, the hidden collapse. Let me tell you about a man named David. He cheated on his partner multiple times, gaslit her, destroyed her confidence, then left pretending he was free now. At first, it looked like he won. New girlfriend, new job, newly festal. But 3 years later, that new girlfriend left him citing emotional availability. His work performance dropped. Old friends started avoiding him because of his reputation. No one posted about it. No public scandal, just the quiet, undeniable collapse of someone who thought he could outrun his character. Meanwhile, the woman he betrayed, she had rebuilt her life. She had grown into someone even she barely recognized. She had no clue what David was going through. And she didn't care because by the time life handled him, she was already free. Why? You didn't need toiter fear. Here's where emotional intelligence kicks in. You could have exposed them. You could have warned everyone. You could have burned every bridge they tried to cross, but you didn't. Why? Because you realized something life-changing. You don't have to punish people who hurt you. Life already has that covered. And honestly, the more detached you became, the more obvious it was who the problem always was. People began to see through their charm, to notice the patterns, to ask the questions you never had to answer. And all the while, you stayed silent, you kept growing. You stayed still while the chaos chased them down. Signs they're unraveling behind the scenes. You may never see their downfall posted online, but here's what it often looks like. Passive, aggressive posts about fake people. Constant reinvention, new friend groups. New jobs, new stories, oversharing or silence. Two extremes that hide a fractured identity. Loneliness disguised as I'm just focusing on myself, and deep down an emptiness. They can't explain because they gave up something real for ego, and life doesn't reward that. Your peace was the real payback. Let's be very clear that the opposite of revenge is not forgiveness. It's peace. And that peace is loud. It echoes when people see you calm, grounded, successful, without drama, without a need to clear your name. It forces them to confront something brutal. They didn't need me to win. And that, my friend, is a pain they weren't ready for. It's the pain of irrelevance, of watching someone they thought they broke become someone they can no longer touch. The universe isn't blind. It's just patient. The game was never about exposing them. It was about rising so high they exposed themselves. Your power didn't come from beating them. It came from not letting them change who you are. And that's the ultimate reversal. They betrayed you, but you became stronger. They thought you'd fall apart, but their own life is falling apart instead. And now you are free. They are haunted. And you never lifted a finger. They may have mocked you when you were quiet, dismissed you when you were kind, taken you for granted when you were generous. But the one thing they could never steal is your dignity. They may have dirtied your name, but they never touched your character. They may have played with your emotions, but they never recheat your essence. Because dignity isn't something you give away. It's something you reclaim. How dignity is lost and found. Let's be honest. During the betrayal, the chaos, the emotional wreckage, you may have done things that made you feel ashamed. Begging for clarity, explaining yourself too much, taking blame that wasn't yours, crying over someone who wasn't worth a tear. It happens. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But here's the transformation. When you finally walk away, when you go silent and choose peace over drama, you begin to collect your dignity piece by piece. Every boundary you enforce, every message you ignore, every time you choose yourself, you rise not in anger, not in ego, but in stillness, clarity, and self-respect. Dignity is the currency of emotional intelligence. Dignity is what allows you to walk away without burning everything down. Let them talk without needing to respond. Be misunderstood and remain unmoved. Stay silent when proving your point would cost your peace. It's not about silence for revenge. It's about silence as protection. You no longer need to be seen as right. You just need to be at peace. As the Stoics say, self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. And dignity is the container that holds all of them. The unshakable self. After the storm, there's a version of you that emerges quietly, more grounded, more focused, less reactive. People notice it. You don't engage in gossip anymore. You don't respond to every provocation. You're harder to access, not because you are bitter, but because you've become selective with your energy. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself because you realize you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You stopped performing, stopped advertising, and started living from a place of deep self-trust. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not how loud you shouted, but how gracefully you rebuilt. Real moment, the dignified exit. A man named Elijah once told his story. He was in a toxic work environment, constantly gaslit, undermined, excluded from key decisions. He tried to speak up, tried to be a team player, tried to earn fairness. But one day, he realized he wasn't being treated poorly because he lacked value. He was being treated poorly because others felt threatened by his integrity. So he did the most powerful thing possible. He walked away. No Rama, no parting shot, just a resignation letter and a quiet exit. 6 months later, the department fell apart. Key clients left. Turnover spiked. But Elijah, he was thriving in a new role with people who valued his presence. And more importantly, evolved himself again. That's the power of a dignified walk away. They can regret, but they can't re-enter. There's a moment when those who betrayed you realize they've lost access, not just to your time or attention, but to your essence. They remember how you listened without judgment, how you gave without keeping score, how you stayed loyal even when they didn't deserve it. And now that version of you is gone. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You didn't harden your heart. You elevated your standards. And even if they apologize, even if they beg, they don't get the same you back. Because the one they betrayed doesn't exist anymore. What they can never take. Let's end with this truth. They may have taken your time. They may have wasted your love. They may have disrespected your trust. But they never took your soul. They never took your growth. They never took your ability to rise, rebuild, and outrow the fire. And that's what they regret the most. Not that you left, but that they can never return. There comes a moment in every betrayal story when tables turn silently. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with recipes and rants, but with your absence, with your peace, with your eyes. That's when it hits them. They didn't just walk away. They became a something I can never reach again. And suddenly, your existence becomes a mirror. A mirror that reflects everything they lost, everything they wasted, everything they never appreciated. You didn't teach them a lesson. Life did. You didn't lecture. You didn't gloat. You didn't send closure texts or moral lessons. You left silence do the talking. You let your elevation speak louder than any wordsiever could. That's the beauty of emotional intelligence. You don't react to wounds from the same place they were created. You rise and let your new reality make the noise. And that new reality, no SH, no drama, no access to our life, no entry into your peace that hurts them more than any revenge ever cowled. Your growth becomes their reflection. The same person they called too sensitive now has better boundaries than they ever will. The same person they dismissed now walks with quiet confidence and purpose. The same person they tried to break is now surrounded by respect, alignment, and inner strength. And all they can do is watch from the sidelines they created for themselves. Because when you outgrow the people who betrayed you, you don't need to punish them. You become the punishment. Real example, she was the lesson. Let's talk about Sarah. Her ex belittled her every chance he got. He mocked her goals, treated her as replaceable. When she left, he thought she'd come back like always. But this time she didn't. He watched from afar as she built her business, improved her body, healed her soul. Years later, she didn't even hate him. She didn't need to because she wasn't the same person anymore. He once thought she was weak. Now he couldn't even face her. Not because she threatened him, but because her presence made him confront everything he threw away. And that's the power of becoming the lesson. You don't need closure when you have clarity. So many people wait for the last conversation. They want closure, explanations, apologies. But here's the truth. Closure is not something they give you. It's something you give yourself. And that clarity comes when you stop needing them to understand. Arrives when you no longer crave validation. Emerges when you finally prioritize your peace over being right. Because when your life improves in silence, they feel every step you take forward, even if they never hear your footsteps again. Their guilt is their sentence. They may laugh in public, but they grieve in private, not necessarily over you, but over what they became. Because when someone betrays a good soul, they don't just lose a relationship. They lose the version of themselves that had access to real love. You were the chapter they closed too early, the opportunity they misread, the blessing they mishandled. Now you're gone. Not because you hated them, but because you finally loved yourself more. And what they feel now is not jealousy. It's not anger, it's shame. When you become the reminder, every time they see someone who reminds them of your kindness, they flinch. Every time they try to recreate what you gave effortlessly, they fail because you weren't just a phase. You were a mirror, a test, a standard they weren't ready to meet. And now your existence reminds them of everything they still haven't fixed within themselves. You've become the reminder they can't mute. Your silence is the loudest sound. Let's wrap this chapter with the truth they'll never say out loud. I thought I'd moved on, but they're still living in my head, and I'm not even in theirs. You didn't win by being louder. You didn't win by being cruel. You won by being unbothered, by letting go, by healing harder than they ever hurt you. And now you are not just the one that got away. You are the one they'll never get over. They thought walking away from you would elevate them, that discarding you like an afterthought would boost their status. But life doesn't reward betrayal. Life responds to energy, and energy doesn't lie. The echo of their choices. People often say they're living their best life after they hurt me. And maybe for a while it looks like they are smiling, posting, thriving on the outside. But inside time reveals everything. Because betrayal isn't just a moral mistake, it's a spiritual fracture. You don't get to violate someone's trust, manipulate their heart, and walk away clean. Even if no one sees it, even if no one calls it out, life remembers. And the bill always comes due. You don't chase justice, you become it. As you rise, as you build a life of peace, purpose, and power, you don't need revenge. Because your transformation is the justice, the discipline you build, the boundaries you enforce, the self-worth you reclaim, the empire you create in silence. All of it becomes a mirror. And that mirror haunts them because it shows them not only what they lost, but who they never had the courage to become. You became the very thing they never imagined. Free Stoic justice rooted in inner power. Stoic philosophy doesn't preach revenge. It doesn't encourage petty victories. It teaches order, character, and the long game. Marcus Aurelius said the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. So you don't react, you don't retaliate, you rise, because true power is self-mastery. And when they watch you glow in silence, elevate without noise, and become immune to their chaos, that's the loss they never recover from. True story. When karma doesn't look like punishment, Elena had been with her fiancé for 6 years. He cheated, lied, ghosted her without closure. For months, she waited for the universe to strike back. Nothing happened. Then one day, she stopped checking. She stopped hoping for karma and started focusing on herself. She got back in shape, started a nonprofit, found love again, not from someone else, but from her own soul. Years later, she bumped into him. He had gained weight, looked tired, was stuck in a dead-end job. He smiled. She didn't, he said. I always knew you'd be successful. Lo, she simply nodded and walked away. That was karma. Not because he suffered, but because she had risen so far, he no longer recognized the woman he once destroyed. The ultimate loss. Irrelevance. No audience equals no identity. No control equals no power. No reaction equals no relevancy. And Anseo become irrelevant to a manipulator. Their world shrinks because they don't live on peace. They live on chaos. They feed off your triggers, your confusion, your reactivity. Take that away. They vanish. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. They're still alive, but not in your world. And that's what they never saw coming. You closed the door without saying a word. You didn't enhance your growth. You didn't perform your healing. You just became unreactable, emotionally, energetically, philosophically. And as they scroll through your life in silence, they realize something devastating. You became untouchable. Not because they couldn't reach you, but because you no longer look back. That is the ultimate power. Your rise is not spite. It's self-respect. Let's be clear. Your growth wasn't fueled by hatred. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about finally seeing yourself as enough and building a life from that clarity. You don't rise to punish others. You rise because you refuse to stay low just to be loved. And that alone is divine justice. Final thought. One day they'll say, I should have treated them better. But by then you'll be so far gone in peace, in purpose in your new life that their words won't have an echo anymore. You won't need closure or revenge or justice because you became all three. You didn't chase revenge. You chose peace. You didn't collapse. You became a storm in silence. And now they remember you not because you are loud, but because your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. You are no longer the broken one. You are the warning to everyone watching. If someone betrayed you, used, discarded you like you didn't matter, let this be your turning point. Don't seek revenge. Don't fight to prove yourself. Become the person they never imagined you could be. Become untouchable, unbothered, unapologetically whole. Because in Fiend, nothing ruins a betrayer's life more than seeing you thrive without the man knowing they're no longer part of the story they thought they controlled. Now it's your voice that matters. What was your strongest move in ensuring a toxic person never returned to your life? Was it a boundary you held? A moment of silence that said everything? A mindset shift that turned your pain into power? Share your wisdom in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to reclaim their power today. And if this video spoke to your soul, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe to the Stoic Tide, where silence becomes strength and healing becomes legendary.